Thank you for inviting me to talk to this conference. I've been racking my brains to think of a way of addressing your theme of magic carpets and international perspectives, because I think one should at least try, and I've come to the conclusion that although I'm not going to say anything directly about that, what I do have to say is as true as I can make it. I'm going to talk about responsibility. And responsibility is a subject I've been thinking about a lot recently, because it has a bearing on the way the world is going, and on whether or not our profession, our art or craft, has anything to contribute to the continual struggle to make the world a better place, or whether what we do is, in the last analysis, trivial and irrelevant. Of course, there are several views about the relationship between art and the world, with at one end of the spectrum the Soviet idea that the writer is the engineer of human souls, that art has a social function and had better damn well produce what the state needs, and at the other end the declaration of Oscar Wilde that there is no such thing as a good book or a bad book. Books are well written or badly written, that is all, and all art is quite useless. However, it's notable that the book in which he wrote those words as a preface, The Picture of Dorian Gray, is one of the most moral stories that was ever written, so even St. Oscar admitted with part of himself that art does have a social and ethical function. Anyway, I take it that art, literature, children's literature, do not exist in an ivory tower. I take it that we're inextricably part of the world, the whole world, and that we have several kinds of responsibility that follow from that. So that's what I'm going to talk about briefly this evening, the responsibility of the storyteller, and how far it extends, and what directions it extends in, and where it stops. The first responsibility to talk about is a social and financial one, the sort of responsibility we share with many other citizens, the need to look after our families and those who depend on us. People of my age will probably remember that wonderfully terrifying advertisement they used to have for Pearl Assurance. It told a little story which I used to read all the way through every time I saw it. When many years later I learned the meaning of the word catharsis, I realized what it was that I'd been feeling as I read that little story. I had been purged by pity and terror. The advertisement consisted of 5 drawings of a man's face. The first was labelled "At age 25", and it showed a bright-eyed, healthy, optimistic young fellow, full of pep and vigour, with a speech balloon saying, "They tell me the job doesn't carry a pension." Each succeeding drawing showed him 10 years older, and the speech balloons changed with each one. At 45, for example, he was looking sombre and lined and heavy with responsibility, and saying, "Unfortunately, the job is not pensionable." It ended with him at 65, wrinkled, haggard, wild-eyed, a broken-down old man staring into the very abyss of poverty and decrepitude and saying, "Without a pension, I really don't know what I shall do." Well, I'm not going to sell you a pension. I'm just going to say that we should all insist that we're properly paid for what we do. We should sell our work for as much as we can decently get for it, and we shouldn't be embarrassed about it. Some tender and sentimental people, especially young people, are rather shocked when I tell them that I write books to make money, and I want to make a lot if I can. When we start writing books, we're all poor. We all have to do another job in the daytime and write at night, and frankly, it's not as romantic as it seems to those who aren't doing it. Worry, constant, low-level, unremitting anxiety about bank statements and mortgages and bills, is not a good state of mind to write in. I've done it. It drains your energy, it distracts you, it weakens your concentration. The only good thing about being poor and obscure is the obscurity, just as the only trouble with being rich and famous is the fame. But if we find we can make money by writing books, by telling stories, we have the responsibility to our families and those we look after, of doing it as well and as profitably as we can. Here's a useful piece of advice to young writers. Cultivate a reputation, which need have no basis in reality, but cultivate a reputation of being very fond of money. If the people you have to deal with think that you like the folding stuff a great deal, they'll think twice before they offer you very small amounts of it. What's more, by expecting to get paid properly for the work we do, we're helping our fellow writers in their subsequent dealings with schools or festivals or prisons or whatever. I feel not a flicker of shame about declaring that I want as much money for my work as I can get. But of course, what that money is buying, what it's for, is security and space and peace and quiet and time.